The media called it the South Capitol Street Massacre. On the grounds of Southeast and also Southwest, there were a few incidents that unfortunately all started with a stolen bracelet, and it set off a chain of events in March 2010 that left 9 people wounded and 5 more victims, all 5 under the age of 21, gone forever.
This was a thing in D.C., man, I'm tell you. This was back in the days. They had intentions of being like the Valentine's Day Massacre. These youngins went on a mission that night. A lot of people lost their lives. Washington, D.C., Southeast.
Took place over the course of 8 days, and a News 4 reporter said it was one of the deadliest street crimes in D.C. history.
Because they had lost their precious Tavon.
There's really no words for me to say. He's gone, and I just hope they do something about all this violence.
The trial begins today for a shooting spree case that started over a bracelet and ended with 14 people shot over an 8-day period.
And new details tonight on the South Capitol Street murder spree from one of the confessed shooters himself.
What led up to the March 30th massacre on South Capitol. Nathaniel Sims returns to the stand tomorrow to tell the jurors how he was the man standing with the AK-47 March 30th, 2010, spraying young people he didn't know.
Well, today is the sentencing for 5 men convicted of one of D.C.'s deadliest crimes. John Gonzalez live outside of D.C. Superior Court.
So many people here at court that they had to provide an overflow room. Now, this all has to do with one of the most violent series of shootings ever in the district. At least 3 shootings involving drive-by retaliations between 2 groups. One shooting taking place at the funeral of one of the young people killed. Now, 20-year-old Sanquan Carter, his 21-year-old brother Orlando, Jeffrey Best, and Robert Boast, both 22, all convicted of more than 170 charges, including first-degree murder. 22-year-old Lamar Williams convicted of second-degree murder, each essentially facing life without parole. We spoke with the victim's aunt just moments ago out here.
I hope every last one of them get life without the possibility of parole. Everyone deserves life.
The story.
See, this is a little section, South Capitol in Atlanta Street. It's over there. You got the little gas station. Well, no, they took the gas station down. You got the Auto Zone. You got the 7-Eleven. Little businesses right there, and it stay flooded. It stay flooded right there all day long, because that's a popular area. You got a lot of neighborhoods go through that area that's live around there. So it's a lot going on around there. Real bad.
The story starts with 20-year-old Jordan Howe, who lived in an apartment with his family on Alabama Avenue. He was a young man who had a passion for boxing and planned to devote all his time to the sport. But he also had ties to the streets, as well as some very serious youngins coming up in Southeast. According to a classmate of his at the last school he attended, he said Jordan was cool. He dressed fresh. The girls at school liked him, and that same classmate said that Jordan kept money on him. He had a troubled past, and if he came to school on Monday, you probably won't see him again till like Thursday or Friday. But overall, he was a good kid trying to figure it out. On March 21st, 2010, Jordan and his friend Sanquan, aka Bootsy, along with 2 girls, entered the apartment of a female friend at 1333, the same building where Jordan lived. Everyone who showed up at that apartment was there for the same reason. Basically, to party, to be amongst their peers, doing what young folks do when they get together. The vibe was chill. Sanquan showed up.
And see, when them parties like that, man, you have a lot of people from other neighborhoods come in there. So you know him, they know this person from this neighborhood, this person from this neighborhood, but I got a man over here and a man over that other neighborhood. I'm cool with both of them. So you end up with places like that, man. It's not a good look because you get a lot of tensions in the air, and people don't like that. That's why things get kicked off and shit like this.
Off his new diamond bracelet to some of the people there, and they were drinking and smoking and having a good time. And so not long after that, Jordan and Sanquan took the two girls that came with them to an empty bedroom in the apartment to get some action. While they were there in the bedroom, Sanquan had taken off his bracelet and sat it on top of his clothes. And after he and the other girl he was smashing did their thing, he didn't even notice the other girl named Kia that was with Jordan slipped the bracelet on and tucked it under her sleeve. And Jordan was already out the room at this point. In fact, he allegedly sent his godbrother right in to get a turn with the same girl. So at the end of their entanglements, Sanquan walked the girls out to the parking lot and they said their goodbyes, not knowing that one of the girls had just left with his bracelet. As they left, the girl Kia pulled her sleeve back.
And they don't understand. They ass can get killed too, man. You out here doing this crooked shit, stealing this man bracelet and everything, then give him hugs and shit. All alone, you done backdoored them and everything.
Show her friend the bracelet she just cuffed. So back in the apartment at some point, Sanquan realized his bracelet was gone. He searched the room and other sections of the place, and all hell broke loose. He screamed, "Somebody got my bracelet." He was then told to calm down or leave. So he went upstairs to Jordan's apartment, to which Jordan stated, "Man, nobody got that fake bracelet." Sanquan wasn't hearing it though. So he called his brother Orlando and said, "They stole my shit, bring everything." And Orlando, according to the prosecutor, was the ringleader of this crew. He
said, "Bring everything. Orlando, bring everything." And they don't think, they just grab shit and they just go. Don't know the situation or nothing.
Pretty serious background, allegedly. Rumor was just 1 year prior he was involved in a murder over a drug dispute. But on this day he had his friend Nate drive him to pick up an AK-47 along with a couple more guys to ride along, which was a guy named Jeffrey and Lamar Williams, who came outside with a couple guns in hand. He had a pump action shotgun and a High Point 380. So he jumped in the back seat and showed Jeff how to work the shotgun and passed the 380 to Nate in the front. Lamar then got out the car and went back in the house. So Orlando, Nate, and Jeffrey with their guns in hands made their way to the Alabama Avenue apartments where Orlando's brother Sanquan was waiting, angry, upset over the missing bracelet. "Motherfuckers robbed my brother. They gonna see." That's what Orlando said while they were on the road.
And he said, they robbed his brother. Nah, the girl got that nigga chain, bracelet, whatever the fuck it is. She got that, man. Come on now. See how that shit can just swivel around and shit, fuck with these little nappy head ass females.
So it was a little after midnight when Orlando and his comrades pulled into the parking lot. Sanquan rushed to the car and grabbed the 380 pistol from Nate. A small crowd was outside. Sanquan, with his gun in hand, began patting the pockets of the people who came out of the party. Orlando stood by with the AK in hand, and Jeff had the shotgun on standby.
Damn.
It was a very intense moment.
They was mobbed.
3 youngins, armed with guns, after midnight, in front of an apartment building on Alabama Avenue, Southeast.
Alabama Avenue. See, that's another part of D.C., man. That's another wild neighborhood. You got to be careful in D.C., man. These some wild neighborhoods. Alabama Avenue, that little stretch going all the way up. That's a long stretch. So it's a lot of neighborhoods within that stretch. It's a long stretch. And you got neighborhoods all in the cuts of them.
All because of a missing fake bracelet. So the situation began to escalate further. One of the young guys even said, "Ain't nobody patting his pockets. Boy had balls of steel." At this point, Sanquan turned to his brother Orlando And Orlando then stated, "Should I go ham?" And Sanquan replied, "Go ham." And then with the AK in hand, Orlando opened fire. And Sanquan and Jeff followed behind him, firing at the crowd. 28 rounds from the AK, all 5 rounds from the .380, and 3 unfired shells from the shotgun that fell on the ground. A few people were hit. 15-year-old Victor Martin was shot in his leg. 22-year-old Tavon Lambert was hit in the calf and hip as he ran and cut through a hole in the fence and ducked behind the building. But Jordan Howe wasn't so lucky. He was sitting in his folks' car out front when this all took place. He was hit multiple times by gunfire. Someone even screamed, "They killed Jordan." So Jordan's friend and mom rushed out to the car, and one of the bullets went through his pelvis, severing his artery, and he was still alive at this point, but he was losing a lot of blood. The friend cradled him in her lap. She stated that Jordan asked her, "Why was everything getting dark?" His mom, Diane, said, "You gotta promise you won't leave me." But unfortunately, Jordan didn't make it.
Jordan loses his life. All because a female won still a goddamn bracelet. A fake one is that.
Today is February 19th, 2023. It is about 13 years after the incident that took place that started right here at this location. Orlando, his brother, and the other 2 jetted off the premises. Sanquan had just caused the murder of his friend, a young man who he played Pop Warner football with as kids. Meanwhile, as the Carter brothers fled away from the scene, preparing to put the guns up and get off the streets, Jordan's godbrother and close friend also left with Jordan's blood on his hands from trying to pull him out the car. Retaliation was on his mind. "I wasn't going to wash my hands until I caught my victim."
Damn.
That was his words. He wanted 2 people specifically, Orlando Carter and Sanquan Carter, to pay with their lives. Like I said in the beginning, Jordan had street ties, because it didn't take long for his godbrother and a group of guys who rock with Jordan to all agree the Carter brothers needed to be taken out. So by now the police have been alerted. They was given a whole spiel about the bracelet and everything from a witness, and Sanquan was identified by photo as one of the shooters, and it didn't take long for them to capture him just 1 day later. So later that day, a small crew of guys that knew Jordan, including his half-brother, got word that Orlando was chilling on 6th and Chesapeake Street. March 23rd, 1 day after Jordan was pronounced
6th and Chesapeake. That's right. Like, a little similar where that incident can go down. That's another part of Southeast. That's another hood in Southeast. I told you, man, there's a lot of hoods in Southeast all over. So the beef is like 1 block away. This street, that street, this street. It's way. So you got shit like Old Block and all that shit out. They talk about out Chicago and everything. We talking about bundles and bundles of hoods in the hood. Believe that.
dead. They parked in an alley nearby. One guy got out, strapped with a .357, walks up to Orlando, put the gun to his head and squeezed the trigger. 1 click, empty. 2nd click, still empty.
Damn.
But the 3rd time it fired.
How that motherfucker, you walk up to a motherfucker, your shit going click, 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 click. Them dirty guns. Motherfucker just give you a gun, you don't know nothing about it. Shit ain't fine. Jam.
And grazed his head. And one more shot went into his shoulder and the shooter ran off.
One of Jordan Howe's associates came upon Orlando Carter as he stood in front of this barber shop trying to shoot him in the head. Twice the gun misfired, but the 3rd time it did fire. 1 bullet grazed Carter's head, another hit him in the shoulder. He survived. Sims testified Carter said to him, "Them blanks tried to do me." it's all good because we're going to blank that funeral up.
Orlando stumbled and staggered across the street and flagged his friend, who took him to the hospital where they treated him for the head injury and left a bullet in his shoulder. Somehow they released him later that night, and he vowed to retaliate against any and everyone that knew Jordan. With the help of his friend Nate, Jeff, and Robert, Orlando stated when they visited him at his mother's house, he said, "Man, them tried to do me in. It had to be Jordan's people. We gonna that funeral up." Meaning they were going to attempt to shoot at the people attending Jordan's funeral on the day it was taking place.
They about to go hit the funeral.
So the next few days, they spent planning the attack, trying to rent a minivan and get more weapons. Orlando knew they needed to get the date and time of the funeral. So Nate and Lamar picked up some girls who knew Jordan, took them to a motel, and got all the info they needed when the girls were talking. Sunday.
I'm trying to see how the hell y'all have so much time and energy to just keep just living this life just every day. Any few, somebody gotta die. Any disruption, bump me. You bump me. I don't like what you put on social media. I don't like this, so I gotta kill you. This shit crazy out here, man. They just said we gonna go fuck the funeral up. They don't give a fuck. Police out there, none kids out there, they gonna go fuck the funeral up. And you already know how cause they just fucked the other joint up, shooting AKs, pumps.
March 28th, Orlando received a text from Nate's phone that read, "Funeral on Tuesday." The next day, they were rejected as far as renting the minivan because of a lack of credit. Still, Orlando tried to get other people to rent the vehicle for him, but after multiple failed attempts, time was running out. So by the time they were finally able to get the minivan, it was March 30th, the day of Jordan's funeral. However, the funeral had already taken place, but Orlando wouldn't give it up. So he conjured up a new plan to catch some of Jordan's associates to shoot him. It was Orlando, Jeff, Robert, Nate Sims, and Lamar Williams riding around the evening of March 30th. Realizing there wasn't enough firearms for everybody, Lamar told Orlando, who was driving, to let him out.
Let me out.
And he basically kept it pushing. But Orlando got an idea to rob a young guy he knew that had a firearm of his own. He believed that they would be able to take his firearm to use in the mission. His name was Tavon Nelson. He was 17 years old.
Damn. They that dedicated, they'll go out and rob somebody for a gun just for the other one could participate in this crime. You go out and rob somebody else for a gun because you don't have enough guns just to participate in a shootout. These motherfuckers ain't got it all. What the hell is going on with these youngest, man?
Approximately 7:20 p.m., March 30th, Orlando drove to the Wingate Apartments along Galveston Street Southwest. He had inside help, someone who had eyes on Tavon. Orlando called him and said, "I'm going to send my men in." When they pulled up, Robert and Jeff hopped out the van with a 9 and a 45 with black masks on that were rolled up on their heads and headed towards Tavon. But Tavon spotted the move and began to react. He tried to defend himself with his gun by reaching for it and shooting at him, but Robert and Jeff got him first and took him out. He died with his gun on his body, and they didn't even take the gun. They just ran back to the minivan, and Rob stated he was the one that hit him, and Jeff said, "Yeah, but I finished him off." So Orlando...
Yeah, I was the one that hit him. Yeah, I finished them all. I just want to participate, man. When you get 100 years, let me see you say, I got 100 years. I'm going to loan you 20 of them. Since you want to finish them off, make it make sense.
Pulled off, upset that they didn't get the gun, but still determined to shoot up a bunch of Jordan's folks who had gathered at the 4000 block of South Capitol Street. Orlando's crew literally just killed a man, pretty much for nothing, and was heading straight to another area to do it all over again. The whole situation was a mess. The police was called and they quickly arrived on the scene at the Wingate Apartments in minutes where Tavon was murdered. A witness gave a description of the guys involved and the minivan they were in. A group of at least 15 youngers were standing together outside a building at 4022 South Capitol Street Southeast. Later, after Jordan's funeral, around 7:30 p.m., Orlando, Jeffrey, Robert, and Nathaniel Sims drove up in the minivan. "Nate, pick up that chopper." That's what Orlando said. While driving, Orlando told his crew when he pulled over to have the guns hanging out the window. As he inched closer to him, he slowed the vehicle and then came to a stop.
Sitting there giving out orders and shit like y'all on a motherfucking Green Beret team or something. When I pull up, hold the guns out the window. They not checking no cameras. They not checking if no feds sitting around. Remind you, it was just a funeral. Now you know it was a violent crime funeral. So you gonna have police at the funeral and you gonna have police, especially in Southeast, at the reception or whatever. And then there's always police right there on South Capitol Street. Too much going on right there. Then at the funeral, they're going to have a repast right on South Capitol Street in this known spot that everybody go past. South Capitol Street is a known spot in Southeast. So you know it's going to be feds and shit out there. But it couldn't have been none out there that night.
Now Nate, who later became a government informant, said, "I put it out the window. I leaned back because Jeff was reaching across me, and I pulled the trigger. I didn't even look. I just pulled the trigger." Nate indeed opened fire on the crowd with that same AK-47 used when Jordan was murdered. Jeff and Rob also sprayed the crowd with their guns. 9 people were hit in total, but 3 of them didn't make it. 18-year-old Devon Boyd, 19-year-old William Jones, and 16-year-old Brashelle Jones, who took a shot to the head. Too many casualties. Too many innocent victims. All under 21. Written on the article, the word said, 16-year-old Brashelle Jones caught a bullet in her right temple. It exited through her skull and passed through her shoulder like a skipping stone. 18-year-old Devon Boyd was shot in the back. 19-year-old William Jones III dropped to the ground with holes clean through his arm, leg, and forehead. A program from Jordan's funeral still folded in his coat pocket. The way he fell back on the grass, his dreads were tangled around his face as if he'd been dancing. 6 others were wounded. Marley's girlfriend, Tierra Brown, was hit below her knee. His little brother, 15-year-old Jabari Smith, was hit in the right leg. 4 more bullets found the brothers, Kevin Attaway and Jamal Blakeney. Derek Lanier was eating a steak and cheese from the curry-out when a round went through his wrist. 17-year-old Rashana Brown, Brashelle's best friend, was listening to her iPod when the grass started smoking. She came to on the ground, blood streaming from her shoulder and leg. Her 911 call was one long scream. Nate said that Orlando didn't pull off right away after that. He said he lifted his mask and scanned the area. I'm guessing he was making sure enough damage was done. This was pure savagery at its finest, y'all. Moving along. So while the murder count in this whole 8-day treacherous situation was now up to 5 juveniles, the cops spotted the minivan almost immediately afterwards. When they finally pulled off, they ended up in a chase, which they tried to get away by speeding up and throwing the AK-47 out, but the cops recovered it. Jeff asked Nate for a cigarette, and the
police got the gun. They try to throw it out the window. Oh, stupid.
Both smoked one, believing it was their last one. By this time, it was a few patrol cars in the chase, and considering all that had just happened and the fact that they had a description of the minivan, it was no surprise. Eventually, because they was outnumbered, they felt they had to get out and run. So Orlando pulled near an alley in Southeast, and they jumped out and ran, all in different directions. Jeff, who was an athlete at one point and very fast, got out on the feds. In fact, it was said that he put so much distance between them by hopping a retaining wall behind Paramount Baptist Church that even the police dog couldn't pick up his scent. Orlando was tackled and cuffed less than a half a block from the van.
Yeah, he the fat boy.
Nate was caught near Chesapeake Street. And sidebar, there was also a 14-year-old boy who I won't mention by name that was arrested in this whole mess, and the police mistakenly claimed he was the little brother of Orlando Carter, and they also released his info back then in 2010 but was later exonerated. I hope his folks got some bread for that. That sucked to forever have your name attached to articles and the stories that you had absolutely nothing to do with.
Yeah.
But anyway, the rest of the story ends with Nate Sims confessing everything to law enforcement.
And new details tonight on the South Capitol Street murder spree from one of the confessed shooters himself. D.C. Bureau Chief Sam Ford has the latest from court.
At D.C. Superior, prosecutors had confessed killer Nathaniel Sims back on the stand today, testifying against his former buddies on what led up to the March 30th massacre on South Capitol.
And Jeff, Rob, and Lamar were all eventually captured, or as the government say, apprehended. The feds got the whole spiel from Nate, who later testified on the stand.
Nate told.
Orlando Carter, life without parole. Jeffrey Best, life without parole. Robert Boast, life without parole. Sanquan Carter, the one it all started with, but was arrested before the South Capitol shooting occurred, 54 years in prison. Lamar Williams, 30 years in prison. And then the government's protege, Nate Sims, 60 years with all but 25 suspended.
Still got 60.
Out of all these guys arrested, man, Lamar was the only one who didn't pull a trigger or didn't even go with them on the capers. However, he had illegal weapons stored at home and supplied them with firearms that claimed innocent lives. His story is interesting but sort of confusing. According to the Washingtonian, he graduated from high school by the 11th grade, was a drummer, and eventually he went to college. The government tried him, but he ain't cracked. He stood on 10 toes, and that was all it took for him to get 30 years. Rest in peace to all those who lost their lives in this crazy, crazy story.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace, man. Condolences to the family members and everything, man. It's just too wild out here now, man. You gotta be careful out here, man. Ain't none of them thought they was gonna get killed that day. No bullshit. All over a bracelet, and that's sad.
Jordan Howe, Devon Boyd, Brashelle Jones, William Jones, and Tavon Nelson.
16, 17.
And to the family, man, I'm sincerely sorry for your loss. The girl Brashelle was in the same age group as my daughter. I can't even imagine. Brashelle's mother publicly released an autopsy photo of Brashelle. And I gotta blur it out for YouTube. They super sensitive with that stuff, but her intent was to show what gun violence do. And I understood the point, but I'm now convinced that young people who heavy in the streets don't care about nothing anyone have to say.
You can say that again.
Like at all. But I also believe when I or anyone else preach to the youth, it's not the lost souls. It's the ones with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Some of them have potential to change, but it's probably only a few reachable youngins. 8 years later, after the South Capitol incident, in 2018, the street Brashelle Jones lived on was renamed in her honor to Brashelle Jones Way. Crazy coincidence.
I go past that joint every day going to work, man. Danbury. See, look, they got Brashelle Jones Way. Made a street out of That's crazy, man. Little girl ain't had nothing to do with none of them. Ain't had nothing to do with none of them. Nobody got killed, had nothing to do with it. The youngin' got robbed before the gun got killed. He ain't had nothing to do with it. All three of them that got killed at the reception after the funeral ain't had nothing to do with it. They were just out there. And the youngin' who house it was, where the bracelet got stolen, he ain't had nothing to do with it. So what the hell? That was his buddy.
Coincidence is the funeral service for young Brashell was held in Northwest at a church named Canaan. It's a Baptist church, and 3 of the shooters were sent to a federal prison named Canaan. Same name, same spelling. It's a USP, United States Penitentiary, and that's how it end, man. I think I said before, I'm not sure if a lot of young people really tune into the channel, but if they do,